That must slow them down.
YC says this thing that
100 million adults. They're really frustrated.
A friend who was on Shark Tank.
AI really
As opposed to like the
enables us.
dirty, the dull, and the dangerous. All right, welcome everybody to Silicon Zombies, where we bring you the best brains from the Bay to beyond. We get to demystify emerging tech with all sorts of delicious brains, and today is no different. Tim Newell from GreenFi and Gabriel Jarrosson from Lobster Capital. Really jazzed to have these two remarkable storytellers, investors, and business leaders on the show. Guys, welcome to Silicon Zombies Unplugged.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, thank you.
Cool. Well, before we get started here, I want to do a big shout out to our friends at Spread. So if you're a content creator and you're looking to up your game, there's a lot of moving parts. It can be kind of tricky. Fortunately, the folks at Spread can help you out. I want to say it's gospread.ai. Did I get that right, Eddie? Gospread.co. And also a big shout out to our friends at Necodex. That's Necodex. So if you're building a product or if you're building a service and you need help with design or distribution or engineering, go to Necodex.com and we'll include their information in the show notes below. Well, without any further ado, grateful to have both you guys here. Maybe we can kind of light the candle. Tim, would you like to do a short introduction for us, please?
Sure. Tim Newell, I'm the founder and CEO of GreenFi. And GreenFi is a financial technology company. And it's a company that is focused around the idea that you should be able to do well and do good with your financial products. And our focus is climate conscious individuals, consumers, and providing them with products that allow them to do well financially, but also do good for the planet.
That must resonate because I feel like folks are kind of like waking up to this. So this is a beautiful thing.
It is definitely a moment for this right now.
You're riding the wave.
And it's one of those things that for me, after working in this area for a couple of decades, it feels like, overnight it's become the right moment to do this.
Wow. So timing is everything.
It is.
Excellent. Gabriel, please.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here. So I run Lobster Capital. It is a VC fund here in the Bay Area, focused exclusively on investing in Y Combinator startups. But we go one step further. We invest in the top 2% of YC startups. So we really want to fund the best of the best. We'll maybe go into details of what the 2% means, but in any case, that's what we do. We're very fortunate to back amazing founders and help them do well. That's it. That's what I do and love doing it.
So maybe as from one Frenchman to another, we could say la crème de la crème.
La crème de la crème.
So Nick, we need to start a fund that does the next percentage. So you and I will do from 2 to 3.
I like that. And then we'll undercut them. Then we'll get them to buy us. Right?
That's right.
That works.
That's right.
That works.
Good.
So guys, the topic of today's show is the builder's edge, and I think it's so helpful to have established operators like yourselves that are now running your respective organizations. A big piece of that pie, from my perspective, is knowing exactly who your customer is, and also knowing exactly how they tick and what makes them do why they do, or what they do, I should say. So maybe Tim, if you could help us understand a little bit about GreenFi and how finances actually have a lot of power and running in the background that maybe folks aren't typically aware of.
So the connection between climate and money is something that you'd think would be obvious, many people don't really understand. And for a typical consumer out there who's concerned about their climate impact, particularly now when they feel like they're kind of on their own as their government has wandered off into the wilderness, you may be driving an electric vehicle. You may be putting solar on your home. You may switch out your gas stove for an electric stove. You may be recycling. You may be eating less meat. Those are all really good things to do. But the fact is that for the average U.S. consumer, by far the greatest impact that they'll have on climate issues is what they do with their money. It's not what's in your driveway or on your roof or in your kitchen, it's what's in your wallet.
Wow.
That really makes a difference.
Yeah.
And as people and the reason why is very straightforward. It's two things. One is that there's about $10 trillion of consumer and small business bank deposits in the U.S. And up to, if your deposits are in one of the top 10 banks in the US, up to 30% of your deposits are going to support the fossil fuel industry, oil, gas, coal, pipelines.
Wow.
And so all the good that you're doing, your bank account may be undoing for you
Yeah.
as you sleep.
So it all comes down to what's in your wallet. Maybe what's in your wallet could be the tagline for the bank.
I think someone already had
That might be
but
taken.
that's okay.
What is the GreenFi tagline?
So do well and do good.
Do well and do good. Beautiful, beautiful. So you guys clearly have a strong pulse on who your customers are and what they want. When we had first connected, also shout out to Nikki Gastineau. I was blown away at like how simply you were able to communicate the value proposition, and it really resonated. Like as a surfer, I care about the environment. I just had no idea that there was $10 trillion going towards financial strategies that maybe are, like you said, undoing the things that are kind of against my philosophy.
So it's pretty straightforward. It's about taking action easy and simple, and just built into your daily life. So the first thing we do is do well for our customers, which is if your deposits are with us and in our high interest savings account, you're getting 3% on your money, as opposed to getting maybe 0.01% if you're with one of the biggest banks. So we start off giving you a better financial product. And then we layer on top of that a guarantee that none of your funds will support the fossil fuel industry. And so we spread funds among a number of banks. We're not a bank. We're a financial technology company. We work with banks. But all of them sign a guarantee with us that none of the funds will go to support fossil fuels. And then we take that a little further. So we have a program that allows customers to plant trees and support reforestation projects around the globe every time they swipe their card.
Is there some additional subsidy that you can get from the government because you're having that positive impact? You're kind of being a bridge between capital and positive impact for the environment?
So lately, our government hasn't been calling me very much to try to subsidize what I do.
Okay.
And not this government anyway. But we add more to that. So if not everybody's in a position to be able to drive an electric car right now. It's not the right thing for them, or they're just not ready. And so for those people who are still filling up the car with gas, we have a program that allows us to offset the carbon impact of filling your car with gas. So just by using your card, again, you're offsetting the carbon that you're using.
I see.
As you go through the day. And we have a series of programs like that just make it really, really easy for you to have an impact just by going through your normal business of depositing and investing and spending your money.
It does seem like there's a global shift towards making these correct decisions. Like, they say 25% of the automobiles projected sales next year are going to be EVs. All these things in conjunction, Tim, probably make it pretty easy for you to be the winner in the space. And likewise, Gabriel, you get to, as an investor, you get to pick what makes a winner. Maybe talk a little bit more about your fund's thesis, and then also, what do you look for when you're meeting with founders? Because we got a lot of founders in the audience here.
Oh, a lot of founders. Hey,
Yeah.
What Tim says resonates with me because this is a thing that consumers care about, and depending on the product that you're building, but you've got to be very close to your customers and understand what they care about. So sometimes it's their impact. Sometimes if you're just building B2B SaaS, it's how easy it is to use and how fast it's going, and what service does it bring to you. If you want an email outreach tool, that's very basic, but like how effective is it at doing what it promises? So customers care about that, and that's precisely what I'm looking for, is companies that just make something people want.
Yeah.
That's not from me, that's from YC, make something people want. So you've got to be close to your customers to understand really what they want, and just deliver it to them in a seamless and easy way. Because just like you said, people want to have a positive impact on the environment, but it's not easy. You got to, buy a new car and be careful in what you eat and recycle, and it takes effort. And the cash is sort of a low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
You just,
passive to some degree.
Exactly. You change bank and you go, that's it. And so that's something that's the type of startups that I look for, that I like to invest into. And then my philosophy is, when I say top 2%, it's not the only thing, but one of the biggest things that I look at is early traction. I'm a seed investor, so backing very early, startups, and early founders are full of promises that tell you, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. What's your early traction? So what have you proven? Usually financially, how much consumers are voting with their credit cards. So how much money have you made? And if you make a lot of money, it means people actually like what you're doing. You've talked to them, you've listened to them, and you've actually delivered on what they want, and that's why it's growing very quickly.
But that's only one signal. Like, what are the other signals, especially in the early stage, that you can lean on to know that you're picking a winner?
It is just one, but I think it's by far one of the most important. And so many seed investors invest and just tell you, oh, it's a good team in a big market. And again, those are signals. We can talk about team, we can talk about market size. But I think the mega signal of them all is the early traction, because if you have early traction, you know how to build, you know how to sell, and you have product market fit.
Yeah.
So and by the way, investing in startups, you want to invest in a young startup that's going to grow quickly. If the startup is already growing quickly, you're halfway there.
Sure.
And so that's why, Lobster is pretty new, we could say. It's only a few years old as a fund, but I think it's going to be top performing fund.
It's helpful because you're as a 7-time founder with exits, you've got the street credibility to talk to the founders, so they're actually going to listen to you.
Yes, it comes from there, because I've built 7 startups in 10 years, which is too much, failed a lot. And there's this myth, build it and they'll come. And that's not true. Like, you can have the best product. If no one knows about it, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
But if you have an okay product, but you're amazing at distribution, you're actually going to do better. Obviously, the ideal case is you have a great product and you're good at distribution. But so, many, especially tech founders, have amazing tech. Many investors fall in love with the tech and never ask the question, how are you going to reach your customers?
Sure.
And that's a question I want to ask and invest in people who figure this out.
Can you share a couple stories with us for folks that you met with and like immediately you're like, I need to get my check. Well, nobody has a checkbook anymore, but like, when you were really jazzed about somebody that you connected with, has that happened in the last 6 months or so?
It happened yesterday. Yesterday
Wow.
was YC demo day.
Okay.
And I met a founder and they're building something in the financial sector. And basically they have a lot of paying customers and a lot of revenue, which makes me realize that they're making something people want. People are ready to pay for that. It's competing with a free product, but it's a subscription. So you're like, people actually pay extra for this. It's awesome. And so I asked him, where do your customers come from? And he said to me, well, we're plugged into a very small number of financial Reddit communities. And we just talk about what we're building. And people get insanely excited and just beg us to take their money and come and subscribe.
Wow.
So, they're doing everything by the book. That's the type of company I get excited about.
Did you write a check yet?
I did.
Nice, excellent. And then how often are you writing checks?
I'm very picky, very selective. YC has 4 batches a year now, and so that's a total across the 4 batches of roughly 500-600 startups, and I'm picking the top 2%, and so that I'm doing between 10 and 15 checks per year.
Yeah.
Between 3 and 5 per batch. So if it's 5 for 4 batches, it's 20 a year, but it's closer to 10, 15. So very, very, very selective.
How do you measure the top 2%? And I'm asking just so that Nick and I can understand how to measure the next
thank you.
percent.
That's helpful.
So the number one thing, again, I go back to, I might sound like a broken record, but it's so important, is I look at the ones that have the biggest early traction. Then I look at teams. For example, we know that founders from repeat founders or founders from big universities, Stanford, Harvard, MIT, whatever, are more likely to create what's going to become a unicorn. So team and traction are really my sort of go-to for the top 2%. And of course, I also want to understand the go-to-market motion. If you have a strong traction, I said no to a company a few days ago, amazing traction and revenue, but more than 50% of their customers are their own batchmates. And so I asked him, okay, I'm going to sell into the next batch. I asked him, okay, how are you going to do it? He didn't have a good answer. I don't know, we'll figure it out. Okay, well, come back to me when you have. So that's what comes from being a 7 times founder is, you understand GTM, that's all you do. And you want to have a good answer there.
You also mentioned product market fit, which I heard described recently as, you can measure it by the amount of pain somebody feels when you take away your product or service. Yeah. It's kind of like a unique way of approaching that.
You should ask your customers, how disappointed would you be if we just went away?
Yeah.
You can just say, and then it's like, oh, I would feel okay, or I feel very, very bad. And so, that's the type, when I was talking about this financial company, people are, raging about it, how great it is. Tomorrow it shuts down, they're going to be very disappointed.
Sure.
I define product market fit when there's some sort of a pull. It's the opposite of gravity. It's just, market pulling you up. You cannot really keep up with demand, with inbound. It just comes at you left and right from
Sure.
all angles. That's product market fit. People are just raging about it.
And what, I guess, Tim, this is for you as well. When you think about the sales process of going outbound, starting that entire cadence, I guess it would be even better to automate that onboarding process. In fact, we had kind of a similar experience back when I was building Contento. We were talking to founders and essentially aggregating, personalizing, and distributing social media for a couple $100 a month. But in reality, it's so much better when you can have an automated kind of like an online wizard to kind of guide them through that process. You can accept their credit card information. Granted, maybe churn goes up, but you can truly scale much more quickly. How are you guys both thinking about this from a product perspective?
Well, our business is a little bit different in that the onboarding process is highly automated, but the onboarding process includes a number of steps that you just wouldn't have to do for your companies. Like we'd have to know your customer. So we have regulatory requirements that mean that we have to understand who our customers are and verify who they are.
Can you maybe double click on KYC for the audience?
KYC, know your customer. It is a regulatory requirement. It requires us to understand who our customers are, what is their phone, what is their address, what is their social security number. It is imposed on us by the government and is a requirement for every financial institution who is taking in customers.
Gotcha.
And
VCs included, so maybe you guys have to comply with KYC for your LPs, or?
I do.
Okay.
KYC and AML, money laundering.
and anti-money laundering.
Yeah.
And to do that at scale, which is what we're having to do to bring in, when you're working on, bringing tens of thousands of customers at a time, you have to have that highly automated.
Sure.
And we spend a lot of time focusing on our funnel and how we automate that funnel and how we do a better and better job, especially now with AI. You really have to work hard to be able to distinguish between what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
Because it's
Wow.
a very real issue.
That's deep.
And we look at how many, count them exactly, how many people who come through our funnel end up as people we have to put out at the other side because they're going to be fraud.
Yeah.
And when you hear about identity theft and fraud rings, it is a very real, very large industry that is attacking all the time. And we're in an arms race right now with AI and other things. It's our AI versus their AI.
Yeah.
To be able to determine who's a real customer and who needs to be let in, let behind the wall, and who do we need to keep out.
Yeah, the terms and conditions, thank you for sharing that, by the way.
Sure.
The T's and C's, I feel like, are especially relevant today. In fact, Salesforce had just come out recently saying that the Slack integration, which I think is done through like MCP or some kind of like agent protocol, is you can't train your own models on that. Now they can, but if I'm paying like $1 million+ a year for a Salesforce license, I'm going to be pretty irritated that I can't train on my own data. But I don't know, maybe there's a lot of people that just don't care about that. Maybe they're hoping that's going to be some kind of like foothold that they can leverage in the future.
There are a lot of services that will do AML intake and KYC intake and those things. And we keep a lot of that to ourselves, specifically so that we can train our own models.
Yeah.
And what we found is that it was better to keep it in-house. It was better to have the team that could do the model training and constantly tweak this so that we could control the process and try to control the outcome.
It's interesting because when I was hearing you talking about this, my first instinct was, you can outsource this to specialists, and there are tons who just do KYC, and so their whole world and day job is finding the fake and the AI.
This is no Portco of yours, is it?
No.
Okay.
I'm not plugging.
We have this discussion all the time about
Exactly
that.
Do you integrate or do you outsource? And most banks outsource, and that was my first thing. Like, okay. But then think about it. Look at Tesla. Most car manufacturers outsource as well, the parts. And then Musk was like, we're going to integrate everything because we're going to own everything and do it better. And I've actually known several neobanks who bring everything back in-house so that they control the entire experience. And it seems this is what you decided to do as well for the KYC part, at least. And it's more work, but it might pay off as well.
It creates a bigger moat.
Potentially.
Maybe you could speak to your experience at Tesla, Tim, around that.
So Tesla was a standout in the sense of Elon was very focused on doing everything inside. And a great example was how you buy your cars. And so every car in this country basically was sold through dealers leading up to Tesla. And Tesla succeeded in changing the industry first because they made just fantastic cars.
Yeah.
When Tesla released their cars, they were the best cars in the world.
It was the best-selling, the Model Y was the best-selling car last year.
Best cars in the world. And put aside what you may think about what Elon is doing now, the cars were fabulous.
Yeah.
But as big of an innovation was how they sold the cars. And I remember sitting in a meeting, 10 o'clock at night, Elon walking in and saying, I want to sell a car in 5 minutes, and you have to finance it within those 5 minutes. Now think about your experience with financing a car. Think about sitting in a dealer for hours while they go off and have lunch while they come back and finance the car. We had to be able to do it within 5 minutes. And my first thought was, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But one of the things you quickly learn at Tesla is, and which I took away from that, is you never say no.
Yeah.
Unless there's a law of physics attached to it.
Yeah.
and even then.
And it turns out we were able to do it. But it meant completely rebuilding the financing stack, taking it in-house, taking it away from the sort of third-party middleware that connected all of the banks and the dealers, and directly connecting with the banks around the world so that you could operate that fast. And it made a huge difference. It really enabled the growth of Tesla as much as having a great car did.
Yeah, you don't need to pay a cut to the dealership. You don't need to actually ship the car a first time to the dealership and then to the customer. You just send it straight to them.
We had a founder who ended up taking his company public, Raphael Michel, another French guy, and he went direct to consumer for hearing aids. So he made a medtech product. There was also an innovation in he made the world's smallest rechargeable battery. And then went direct to consumer. But it sounds like you don't have to innovate just the product. You can also innovate around that. Maybe it could be tricky for like legal innovation. Like, I think OpenAI got caught in a bit of a kerfuffle in that space. But maybe like opening our mind to how we can innovate and better serve our customer. That seems to be a good dynamic a good string to pull, right?
Well, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, especially right now with AI, because everyone is trying to build the next best AI, but you can innovate by building, and YC is very big on this, by being AI first, AI native companies.
What does it mean to be AI native?
So instead of, let's say you build a software for lawyers, okay? An AI software. You can go out, or let's not say lawyer, let's take a bank. Let's give ideas to your competitors. Let's say you build this AI software for a bank. You can either go out and sell it to banks, or you could say, maybe bank is a bad, because you need regulations, but you can say, I'm gonna be the bank. I'm gonna use the AI that I built to serve my customers better and to beat the other banks instead of selling it to them. So AI native, AI first company. So I'll give you an example. I've invested, this is a plug, in an AI, I won't name them, in an AI native insurance brokerage. So insurance brokerage is a very manual process. It's human led. And so there's a cap into how many people they can, or businesses they can file per day. You build it from the ground up AI native, and there's no humans anymore, that cap vanishes. And so they're just competing directly with every other insurance broker. And so that's a big innovation you can bring almost everywhere.
Yeah.
And so you don't need to build the latest AI model. You build, the model is the engine, you're building the car around it. And what's interesting is OpenAI releases a new model, you swap the engine. You're not at risk. You're building the car. And so what's the car? It's the customer relationship. It's the customer acquisition. It's the process inside, or of how do you intake a customer that wants insurance. It's the relationships that you build. It's the connections. It's everything else. And the model is just the engine, and you're model agnostic. You can go from OpenAI to Anthropic or whatever.
Yeah.
So you do that well, and what happens is, instead of you selling your service to the bank, you're selling that bank to your customers.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And which is what we do. We have a partnership with a bank, it's a great bank, and we essentially sell their product, which is the regulatory bank account, to our customers. We have other partnerships in the same way, and we'll build more, where we're building the relationship with the customer. We're building the intake of the customer, the understanding of the customer, the story to build the customer, and the banks, the institutions. It's a service we're taking from them that we're using to sell the products to the customers.
So the models are being built on top of existing models and then maybe fine-tuned? Is that what kind of you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
you, at some point, you might become the bank, or you just become a layer. But the real value in the future, it's going to be on this layer of acquiring the customer, knowing the customer, telling stories to the customer, and building something that customers want. And then the actual bank that just holds the money almost becomes irrelevant. If they have a good deal, they can stay with the partner. If they're unsatisfied, they can build their own. But that's sort of it becomes the irrelevant part. The relevant part is all of what sits on top.
And personalizing that product for the customer.
Exactly.
What AI allows you to do is mass personalization
Yeah, that's
in a way that you can't do otherwise, which is, Nick, what do you want? What is important to you?
Right.
What series of products and what terms on those products are the right thing for you, as opposed to the other?
Wow.
Maybe different.
That's like a
What-
light bulb moment for folks who are building at home.
What is the right set of investment products? Not just what's the packaged products, but let's do a customized portfolio of ETFs that meet your very specific objectives.
Based on my risk tolerance or
Not
preference?
only based on risk tolerance, but based on
What you like.
care about,
Yeah.
What you care
what you
about.
like,
Yeah.
and be able to deliver those to you, not through an advisor who you sat down and talked it through, but through a platform that we can run this through and scale this and take in the data and be able to deliver something better for you than you could have had before.
Yeah, so you're talking about creating a real moat, not just around technology, but the relationship as well.
Ultimately, with consumers, you have to have the relationship to be able to do this. The technology, in my business anyway, in financial services, it is really hard to build a moat.
Yeah.
Because everyone can go on and build the products and have a savings account. have a
But there's
checking account.
regulation, like you mentioned. That must
Well,
be,
this
that must slow them down a little bit, right?
Sure, it's hard to get into this business. It is a highly regulated business, and it is for a reason, and it should be.
Yeah.
And the trick is to be able to really understand that, and understand how to stay within the rails that are set up, and to innovate within those rails.
Yeah.
And that's what gets me excited. That's what I've done the last 20 years in different kinds of startups.
Yeah, and the mode can be often is in the data as well. At some point, if you have, if you're a customer and a bank wants to customize a portfolio of ETF tailored to you on what you like and what you use, because they have some of your data with your credit card where you shop, they see, oh, you're buying, food for your dog every week, and so they know you're a dog owner and you care about that space. And they see you travel all the time to Hawaii, and so they're gonna invest in a, forest thing in Hawaii for you. So data can become the moat. Why do you think OpenAI provided their services for free to everyone and still does? Because it gives them a data advantage where everyone goes in and types the data. I mean, it's like Facebook.
If you're not paying for the product, you are the product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You read my mind. So data can become the mode as well, because technology is not the mode anymore most of the time.
So for folks that are curious about what the next 3, 6, 12 months look like, what should they be building? I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but I guess specific domain expertise, relationships for distribution, these things are both important. But from a product and services perspective, what are the entrepreneurs of tomorrow building? Because I mean, look, it's one thing to have a huge market now, but Sam Altman is famous for saying, I want to invest in the companies that have a huge TAM, total available market, tomorrow. So what does that look like? Help us peek into the future for the folks at home here.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's my job. I have plenty of ideas, but
You're pretty damn good at it too, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I try. YC says this thing that I think is so fun but completely true is, if you want to build something today, call a friend that's working at a big old company, we all have them, and just go sit with them for one afternoon and just look at them, look at what they're doing on their screen. And it's going to blow your mind, like how much stuff they do that can be replaced and automated by AI. So that's sort of the lowest hanging fruit, but you can build a $10 billion business out of that in whatever industry there is. It's better. I like also to look at founder market fit. It's better if it's an industry that you like or that you know or you have an edge. So I
Yeah,
back
your unfair advantage.
exactly. I backed a founder who's trying to disrupt intake at the hospital, and he's been through 9 years of weekly hospital meetings because he had a bit health condition, and so every week for 9 years he has to do this manual intake that makes him go crazy. So now he's replacing this with AI. Very personal for him. So he has an edge.
That's a good founder story.
Exactly, that no one else does.
So I'm turn that around a little bit.
Please.
Which is, and why she's fabulous at this, which is forcing their folks to go in deep, sit behind their customer, look at their screen, understand how they work, how they think, all those things. So over the last 10 years, there's been a huge change in the U.S. about attitudes toward climate. And so now about 40% of all adults in the U.S. would say that climate is a serious problem. That's 100 million adults. You cannot sit behind the screen of 100 million adults. And so you have to find different ways of being able to tell the story and to get feedback back into them. So those 100 million adults, what we know is they're really frustrated right now because they want to make a difference, but what they find is it's hard to get information about what climate actions they could take. It's hard to trust that information. They're worried about greenwashing, and they're worried about having to give up something in their lifestyle or give up on a financial product, the terms of it, in order to be able to have a financial impact. And so what I'm really excited about over the next 6 months is building products and working with people. I would work with your teams to build products that enable those customers to do well and do good, that enables them to make it really easy to both succeed financially and to build climate impact into their daily lives, the ultimate easy button of climate impact.
Ooh, I like that.
Which is
That's the tagline.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's a good one right there.
Every time
We'll
they
clip
swipe their
that.
card, every time they do an online transaction, they know it's being built in and they see it.
You mentioned something that I want to double click on. If you're asking me like, if you're a founder, what should you build in the next 3, 6, 12 months? You mentioned something, and I know it's at the core of what you're building, and it's something that we both love as well, I'm sure, is storytelling. It's important for you to be able to go out there and tell your story. And so if you're building something today, again, here in Silicon Valley, many people think it's just the tech, it's just the code. And I'm not like, yes, you need to have tech and code. Your bank or product wouldn't work without technical stuff. But I would add a layer of storytelling or community. And I know the three of us care about this a lot. And so it could be content like this, like a podcast, but it could just be, tweeting or Reddit or whatever. But just building a community that's authentic. And I think, everyone's talking about AI generated content, and more people are using that, but I think something really authentic like we're doing now, like we're not bots. I swear, guys, we're not AI, or at least I don't know if I'm AI. It's another topic.
But I can do the robot pretty good,
Yeah.
though. Yeah.
Building authentic connections, it's so important. And also it isn't, that in itself is an edge, because people know you, see you, trust you, are part of the community, and then are going to come and use your product. It's
consistency, right? Like folks they're not going to buy your product or service on the first time. We call those bluebirds, especially in the enterprise or the SMB SaaS space. But I guess, Tim, how are you approaching the content creation space? When I think of GreenFi, I think of a company that is really at the bleeding edge, because like fintech, traditionally it can be kind of stodgy, but it feels like you're building the company of tomorrow. How are you telling that story through content?
So telling the story is really important for us. And it's important for a really specific reason, is because what we're delivering to our customers, not just a financial product, they can get that from any bank, but we're enabling them to feel good about what they're doing, which is generally not the case when you're thinking about your checking account.
Yeah.
Your savings account. And to deliver that emotional value, you have to become a storyteller. I expect, and this is something that I've talked about with our team, which is that we will be as much of a media company as we are a financial company in the couple of years to come, because you have to really build that way of connecting.
You need to succeed.
You have to. And
if you're telling me, oh, I'm not interested in media, I'll tell you, you're not going to make it. But you, thank God.
It's not just outreach customers, it's just being a media company.
Yeah.
Does that mean telling your own story internally, or does that mean like highlighting your community and members too?
Telling the story to our customers, telling the story to those 100 million people who feel like that they're frustrated because they want to do something and they feel like their government has taken a right turn and left them behind on this, and they feel like they have to find a way to do it themselves, and to give them a path that says, here's how you can do it, and make it easy and make it really work for you. And it encompasses a wide variety of things. It's not just creating content. It can be little things like we publish our roadmap online for all our customers to see. So our roadmap that's going out.
Elon does the same thing.
And we ask them to
right?
vote on it.
Yeah.
And so we get votes on what are the features and products that our customers want.
Have you been surprised based on the feedback from the audience or excuse me from your community?
I have learned not to be surprised. I have learned to count the votes. And fortunately, my background in politics and government sort of taught me counting votes is what you need to be able to do.
Sure.
And so whatever you think your customers want, let them tell you what they want.
Yeah.
And they will.
I would like to again take the counterpart on that. I'm sure you've heard Henry Ford saying, customers can pick any color for the car as long as it's black, and so.
Or if they want a faster horse and not the automobile.
Yeah, exactly. People want a faster horse, and they don't want. So, do you think? I think it's not always, not never, but not always good to listen to your customers.
It is additive, but not determinative.
Yeah.
Is the way to put it. It is informative, but not dispositive.
Yeah.
For how you're going to build what you're going to build.
Sometimes you build it and you tell people that this is what it likes, like Jobs, right? Like I don't think anybody could have really seen that. Well, I guess, I don't know, to the flip side of that, maybe it's like the Newton existed, there was a couple of these elements, but the usability, it did seem like there was a big innovation there.
But I think also people crave connection right now,
sure.
especially as they're becoming more and more suspicious of the connection that they're getting over social media. Is it real? Is it not real?
Yeah.
Where's it coming from? Am I being manipulated? And so we have our community members getting together in person and doing service, cleaning up streams and doing other things. And it is something that really works. It's something that we're just beginning to organize and get into place, and it's been very popular so far.
Who knows? Maybe folks will make new friends, new business partners. There's all sorts of, cool things that can come from that.
And people are going to become advocates. Oh, look at this feature. I helped build it. I voted on it.
Yeah.
So that's community building.
Which lowers your customer acquisition cost as well, right? Yeah. So it's interesting because I think fintech and I think early stage venture, but also YC is focusing more on health and climate as well. What do you think is driving these changes in the dynamic?
Well, the biggest unlock, I think, is AI for robotics. Basically, we've been promised or dreaming of robots for the last 50 years, and we've pretty much gotten nowhere until recently. But now AI, in the last 2-3 years, unlocks a lot of things in those sectors and anywhere else, just literally humanoid robots. And I saw yesterday a YC company doing a robot that can actually clean your dishes. And if you think about it, it's something that almost everyone hates. I personally hate that. But it's very difficult for a robot. For us, it's so easy. You grab the plate and wash it in the sink. But you need to, it's all different shapes and forms. It's fragile, but you got to hold on and not let the plate go either. And there's water and soap. It's slippery. It's a super difficult problem. And when I was a kid, my dad told me you'd never see a robot washing dishes.
It looks like maybe Tim likes to wash the dishes.
You love it.
No, I don't like washing dishes. but here's my question, which is technically,
Yes.
it's an amazing achievement, and it will enable an enormous range of products and activities which we can't even guess right now because you're introducing new technology. I question how many consumers want a robot in their kitchen.
Yeah, I agree.
Now washing their dishes, and
That's beyond the point.
Yeah, but it's not beyond the point.
Because
In some ways, it is the
I agree
point.
with you. I agree with you. Like probably this specific use
Exactly.
case is not amazing, but it's about the technology that they built more than actually selling that. I agree with you. Probably
Yeah.
few people care.
Fabulous technology, and
Exactly.
it will end up
Gabriel's-
changing our lives.
I didn't
over
invest,
time.
by the way, in them.
Changing our lives over time. But there is a I think a very real pushback among consumers about what is the latest innovation and whether they really feel connected to it. And I'll give an example from the climate world, which is carbon credits are used to good effect to transfer capital into projects around the world. And there's a form of currency. And what we found, because it would be easier for us, instead of planting trees, to just buy carbon credits and use the carbon credits to offset people's carbon footprint. The problem is that consumers generally don't like carbon credits. Even though they're a financial innovation that really helps, they really don't like them.
Maybe they feel
They
that
don't
it's
trust
like
them.
a game of hide the cheese
They
or
feel like,
something.
they feel like and they've seen stories that say that they're
Yeah, they get a bad rap.
They get a bad rap. So, and what we found is that people feel connected to planting trees. They really feel connected to it. They
Yeah.
understand it. I swipe my card, you plant trees.
Yeah, that's what I got excited about
Yeah,
when
and
we
so
first met.
we've had a lot of opportunities to do different things, and like we're beginning to move into doing work in oceans, not just forests.
Really?
But it's really hard to find those things that have such a real connection to your consumers
Did
that
you
they
try
want.
Save Turtles?
And so, well, I mean,
I hope so.
it's how do you enable people to swipe a card and do something?
So you
Like
know
right
what?
now-
I see parallels, Tim, with kind of what we were talking about before, like getting rid of the middleman and just going straight to the problem. I had a friend who was on Shark Tank a couple of years ago, and it was fashion, and you could sell your products and then get points and all this. And one of the things that the sharks immediately jumped on, they're like, well, what's the deal with the points? Why isn't it like a 1-for-1 transaction? Yeah. And it almost smelled like maybe there was something like that's where you're building in your margin. And perhaps it's maybe even a little disingenuous. Yeah. But if it's just like really clear, then you know exactly what you're getting, and it just feels good, like planting trees.
And it's surprisingly effective. While we're sitting here today, just having this discussion, our customers will support the planting of about 500 trees.
Wow.
A decent forest.
That's incredible.
And every day we'll do 2.5 football fields of trees.
Yeah.
It's one tree about every 7.3 seconds. And it feels very real to the customers. And that's why we do it, because it does feel very real.
You mentioned the oceans real quickly. I when I was a kid, I wanted to be a marine biologist.
Oh, wow.
I'm just like fascinated, right? And what scientists are doing is they're crossbreeding coral, because some coral is more susceptible to hot water, warmer water, and so it's like dying off. So what they're doing is they're planting it in these biodegradable cups, right? Where they're able to replant the coral forest in conjunction with playing the sound of healthy reef underwater, which attracts 50% more fish. Wow. So it's like you got these things coming together to combat like all the scary stuff that is happening in our oceans. And the oceans is kind of like, that's the foundation, right? Like
Here's an analogy to that, which is in some of the reforestation project we do, they're using drones and robots to do audio sampling. Not just to observe it, but to do audio sampling. And why are they doing audio sampling? Because when you restore a forest, you're restoring an ecosystem. Yep. Mm-hmm. And that's how you're judging the biodiversity within it.
Wow.
And the insects and the animals and other things. And so there's been a lot of innovation just around being able to judge the health of that system.
That's a cool modality. Normally, when I hear audio sampling, I think like a DJ. But
Exactly.
that's totally different, right?
There's another company, I don't think it's YC, but I'm not sure, it's called Drone Seed. It's just, using drones to plant trees.
planting.
Because
Yeah.
you gotta plant a lot of trees. And so it has little seeds, and it just goes over and just
okay.
drops the seeds.
It's like Johnny Appleseed,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
but,
But a drone.
yeah.
It's being used a lot in the Sierras. We're doing a project with Forest America in the Sierras to do reforestation of some of the burned out areas.
Okay.
And they're experimenting with using drones to be
And how does that relate to like regenerative ESG? Is that, I mean, maybe if you could explain that, and also what greenwashing is. Like,
Okay, I'll start at the back. Greenwashing. That's when someone says buy my product because it is plant based. Well, that's because it's corn and sugar, all plant based, but it's corn and sugar. Right? And so that is sort of biowashing. But greenwashing is when you make claims about the climate value or environmental value of a product that are dubious.
yeah.
Right, and shocking, but it happens.
Dubious is a fun word to say, though. Just like total side.
So and consumers are very sensitive to it, as they should be.
Especially millennials, or I should say,
Very
like the
sensitive.
younger generations, right?
Right, they've learned to be distrustful, and ESG, which is environmental and social governance factors, being used to judge the value of investment products that are laid on top of just the financial returns. It is something that is a political football right now. It has been highly politicized. It has become a front in the cultural wars, just like DEI. And so,
Which kind of maybe been bastardized. Like I know.
the latest fashionable thing is to kick around ESG.
Yeah.
But it is really, if you go back far enough, it's backed by the fossil fuel industry and its allies who would seek to starve the energy transition of some of its capital. But having said that, ESG was an early attempt to try to put a rating on investments that was more than just the financial rating, and it was useful in that, but it's problematic. It's problematic in that it is often opaque in the standards that's used. The standards about the ratings are very widely from one rater to another. And so, and it's looking backwards, and it's based on the company's disclosures looking backwards.
Isn't that kind of antithetical to the whole blockchain thing of like decentralized and transparent, though?
Completely.
Yeah.
Right. And I say this knowing I have an ESG mutual fund that I inherited when I bought out the assets of Aspiration to begin doing this, and it's good fund. It is right now performing better than the S&P, which is its benchmark. But in the future, that's not where we see going with investment products. Where we see going is highly customized, very transparent, and ones where you can really judge the specific impact of those down to a fairly granular level. And AI really enables us to do this. We have a partner that we're working with who we're working to be able to characterize right now any investment product almost, and then to be able to put in place a platform that allows us to combine those in customized ways for our customers. But it's very much focused on what's the impact, and that gets to your question about regenerative, which is, it's not just did you have a good social policy or governance policy, it's what was the impact of that and on things that you care about.
Yeah. Yeah, because then it shows that you truly are aligned with the end product, and also probably makes for good content to get new customers full circle, right?
And literally to look at regenerative is when we say none of your deposits will go to fund fossil fuels, that's a negative screen.
Yep.
When I say every time you swipe your card, you're going to plant trees, that's regenerative.
Yeah.
Right. That's a good way to think about it.
Gotcha. So we do have a couple friends in the audience here. So I don't know if maybe there's a question that you had, or you wanted to give a shout out for what you're building.
Yeah, Neil Mamluk. I work at lead partnerships at Cloud Trucks, building out the trucker ecosystem for independent operators everywhere across the U.S.
Excellent. Thank you. Christine.
I'm Christine Kiesel with Blackbone and from cosmetic to critical care. We are the trade advisor for medical tourism, helping the $12 trillion industry take back their own healthcare.
Beautiful.
And found one of my customers here.
Yeah, long time customer, love it. Love to
right.
see it here. GreenFi's been amazing.
Good deal. Good deal. So kind of taking us back to like trends in the space, what do you think the new batches are going to look like in the next year or so?
Well, YC publishes a request for startup. So that's what startups are looking to fund and to build. And interestingly, people think YC is only software and people building AI stuff. And there's a lot of AI, obviously.
But they do hardware too.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Hardware's hard, but
exactly,
it's...
they do. So not this batch, that was spring 25, but the batch just before, winter 25, earlier this year, had a lot of hardware companies in the batch. And like a lot, it's probably like 20% of the batch, like a lot of very interesting things. So my prediction, my guess, is that the next few batches, the next few years, are going to have a lot of hardware startups again. And again, there's this big unlock from AI for robotics.
Doing your dishes.
Doing your dishes.
Yeah.
No, but like, in the batch that I was talking about, Winter 25, there's the guy who built the hand at Tesla for Optimus, who left and building his own robotic hand company. And there's going to be 100 million robots in the US in 20 years, and they're almost all of them going to have hands.
Sure.
So not all, but many of them. So I believe this is what we're going to see. We're going to see a lot of AI native companies that I've talked about. There's a lot of things, a lot of ideas around technology has always allowed regular people to live like rich, very rich people.
Or
So,
the kings from 100
exactly.
years ago.
We have a better life, all of us, than Napoleon or whatever Louis XIV, the French king or whatever. Like whoever was on top of the world, even 200 years ago, we have a much, much better life because we have electricity and iPhones and internet and whatever. And so
Internal plumbing.
internal plumbing for sure. So but technology does this. So think of Uber. Before you had to be extremely wealthy to have a private driver, but today you can just take your phone and almost anyone can afford Uber and have someone just show up and drive you around. Think of all the advances in the medical sector where today there's AI and technology allowing you to and before you had only a very, very few experts that you would pay a fortune that would be able to give you a diagnosis. So YC is big on this, on helping the next generation of those products that are today only available to the rich. One of the partner of YC is the founder of Google Photos. And so his idea was the very rich people pay people to actually go through their photo albums and triage them and put stickers and, this is all the pictures of Nick and this is my vacation to Rome, and now just Google Photos does it with you with technology. So there's a lot in the financial world, like financial planner and financial assistant from AI. There's a lot of sort of assistants, rich people have assistants to make their lives easier. What's the AI assistant that books you your meetings and calls and stuff like that? And many others that we haven't even thought about. Yeah. One that I particularly like, and we have one company sort of already in YC trying to do this, but I think we're going to have more, is changing the way we interact with emails by being AI first and voice first. So think about it. Hundreds of millions of people in the US.
Is this superhuman by chance?
Well, superhuman is not YC, it's in the space.
Oh, okay.
Superhuman that I use is bringing AI into emails. But think about voice email. So how many people commute to work? You have 10, 15, 20, 30, 45 minutes of driving every morning. Wouldn't it be amazing if you arrive at work and your inbox is already done?
Wow.
Because you're just talking. I got this email from Nick. This is what he wants. Can you reply? Okay, say this and say that.
Or we could have 3 meetings to replace that email, right? That would
exactly, even better.
But it's not theoretical. Like I was visiting my son in Davis, California, which is an hour or so away.
It is happening.
And I was driving back, and I worked through on my drive back with an AI agent on audio, writing 2 documents and working through
wow.
email.
Exactly.
Wow.
Just an audio talking back and forth with that agent.
Yeah.
What model are you using? ChatGPT or?
That was ChatGPT.
Okay.
Yeah, many people, I was going to say, drive around talking to ChatGPT, you can get some work done, etc. And the future is voice. So we know, everyone knows there's the Johnny Ive, startup acquisition by OpenAI.
$6.5 billion.
Exactly.
I think it was.
In OpenAI stock, so there's no cash.
Oh, okay.
And OpenAI is worth $300 billion, so that's a 5% stake in OpenAI.
Yeah, not bad for a company that.
Sorry, 2% stake in OpenAI.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
But not bad regardless. It's
Sure.
probably good. But so what are they building? We don't know. Is it glasses? Is it a pendant? Like it's not a. It's most likely not a phone. So the future is AI based. Probably glasses as well. You know, Meta is building something there. And so imagine. You know, I was talking about emails, but it's going to be a whole lot of things, including maybe changing how we interact with computers. It's been screens, you know, laptops and phones. The last step is Neuralink. We're not there yet, but in the middle, there's probably going to be a new interface, and whatever that interface is, whether it's glasses or pendant or something else, it's very likely has something to do with voice.
Yeah.
So that's the next like 3-4 years for us.
I'll give you an example that goes along with that, which is we just finished last quarter doing the first close of a seed investment round.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Appreciate it. And in working through the cap tables for that, as you will in investment banking, you know, you're doing multiple iterations of the cap tables and dilution and everything else. I was working through them just talking to an AI. I didn't have a spreadsheet in front of me.
Wow.
And I just talked, and I could say, like, just use the word, say, I want to see what it would take to keep the dilution of this investor to this much.
Yeah.
Totally voice. And what it did is enabled me not to have to use my VP Finance to run this. I could just have the conversation back and forth with them in the car, and it causes some awkward moments. When an investor says, "Can you send me that spreadsheet?" And there is no spreadsheet. It's an AI.
Yeah.
I see this a lot. You used to ask an expert. You used to ask your accountant. You used to ask a lawyer. You used to ask someone, and now you just pop the question to ChatGPT. So you used to ask a VP of finance, and then just you get the answer right away. It's not even about not disturbing them because it's their job. They're happy to help you. But it's just it takes 24 hours.
Yeah.
And then it takes a minute, and you get the answer.
Well, Dario Amade says that this is going to wipe out a bunch of these jobs, and in fact, the number of jobs open to college kids is the lowest it's been in over a decade. So maybe there's a little bit of pain in this transition phase, but also maybe more college students are going to be creating their own products now too.
It's creative destruction. Yes, there's less jobs. It's changing the landscape, but it's the same with cars replacing horses. All the people, feeding the horses and building the horseshoe.
Sure.
All of those people were out of work. But then there's new things that happen. People can travel further with the car and so with AI, people can build stuff. It's going to be very different.
That's one of the fundamental problems I have with the argument of AI's taking our jobs. Like, can a car drive by itself? Yes. But, traditionally when a company gets 20, 30, 50x ROI, they're not going to stop investing because it's having like a great, and that just means more resources, and it means that people are going to be able to do jobs that they feel better about,
but
as opposed to like the dirty, the dull, and the dangerous.
Exactly, but both of them are true. Like what you're 100%, I agree. Those companies are going to grow bigger and innovate and develop new things. If you're a truck driver today, you might still be out of work in 2 years, and so it's up to you to learn a new skill. So both are true at the same time. There is some pain in some jobs that are actually disappear. And if you've been driving trucks your whole life for the last 30 years, might be maybe harder for you to get another gig going.
Yeah, to upscale.
But overall, it's net positive. Companies are going to build new stuff, and
It is a painful time to be restructuring companies right now. When I say painful, it's exciting. There's huge opportunity, but it's painful because it affects people's lives.
Yeah.
And when I bought out the assets of Aspiration, which is the company that preceded the core of which we used to launch GreenFi, when I first took a look at it, there were more than 400 people working for the company.
Wow.
And its economic model was deeply upside down, and it was on its way to being shut down. And now there's a little more than 40 people.
Yeah.
Great people, fabulous people, but that process of going from 400 plus to 40 plus, I would not recommend it.
Wow.
That is deeply painful.
you can ask the
Are
AI.
you seeing this in your portfolio companies too?
You can ask the AI to fire everyone for you. You let them do the work.
No.
Yeah.
That's one dog you got to hunt yourself.
No, for sure. Yes, people hire less because you can do more with AI, you can do more with less. But like you said, then it allows you to grow faster. So then you're back to hiring for, there's some things that we're not, automating with AI yet. So it's a double-edged sword. Yes, you hire less and do more. Because you do more, you had more output, you grow, and you end up hiring for those others. So
I do worry though about, I have sons who are, at the age of entering the workforce. And I worry what the entry level jobs will be, because for the 40 odd people who work with me, not only do they have jobs that are really, enormously leverageable, but we'll add people to that.
Yeah, yeah.
But almost all of them are experts in one way or another in what they do.
So is this part of the advice that you're giving your sons, is to become an expert in a specific space or build themselves maybe?
Become an expert in something.
Yeah.
Become knowledgeable in something that
'Cause
or find a job that is very difficult to translate over.
Sure, a strong human element. So speaking of which,
And
obviously,
that could range from childcare to teaching to law enforcement to a number of other things.
yeah.
And-
Man, this is fascinating. I wish we could keep rapping. I feel like we could talk for hours. So I want to make sure that the zombie audience can be valuable here too. So perhaps there's a website you'd like to plug, or maybe how can folks get in touch with you?
We're at greenfi.com, and very easy to find us, and you can easily find me on LinkedIn.
Great.
Tim Newell.
yeah,
Super.
and you can follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter. I post daily.
Yeah,
about
you have
VC and
both you guys have great content, by the way. So keep up and you know what? Now you got more, just like from today. So awesome. Well, Gabriel, Jarrosson, Tim Newell, thank you so much, you guys. Really appreciate it. And be sure to tune in next week, where we'll bring you more of the best brains from the Bay to beyond. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Thanks, everybody.